I recently had this session's Model 227P movement sent in for servicing. It fits into a wooden steeple case from about the 1920s. The case wasn't sent, so only the movement to work with. I've dismantled and cleaned it. Now it's time to check for wear. It's been in the same family since it was new. The movement hasn't worked for many years. I'm going to focus on what I believe was the sole source of it not working: the escape wheel. I'll start by assembling the time train, second wheel, great wheel, third wheel, fourth wheel, escape wheel, rear plate. Second wheel has minimal wear on the pivot hole. It's not elongated at all. For its age, the pivot hole is in excellent shape. The plate around the escape wheel pivot has been center punched in 2 places. A butchered pivot hole. Front plate has been butchered as well. 4 deep center punch marks. Someone left the escape wheel in a mess. Both brass plates are deformed around the pivot holes. And the escape wheel doesn't run true anymore. I'll make a quick indicator gauge to help get a better visual. Fasten it to the sides of the plates and adjust the paper so it lightly touches the teeth. Now we can hear and see the problem that the butcher created. Escape wheel is rotating better than 30 thousandths out of round and wobbling from side to side about 60 thousandths. Another paper indicator next to the lantern pinion. What a mess the last guy left for the owner of this clock. Lantern pinions have a large degree of tolerance, so the mating fourth wheel gear teeth still meshes with the escape wheel lantern pinion. Looking closer at these 2 center punch marks in the brass, and then at the pivot, I'm seeing 2 tool marks on the end that match up to the punch marks. This tells me it was center punched without taking the movement apart. The pivot was bent in the process. Looking at the arbor on the other side, there's a tool mark on it as well. This is from the backup anvil that was used while punching the brass. Sad. Looking on the front plate closer, there's 5 center punch marks. And this pivot has tool marks on it as well. The inside diameter of the pivot hole is all jagged and not uniform from the brass squeezing in unevenly. I'll pull the escape wheel and see what can be done to save it. Brass is deformed from the original profile of the plate. Here on the inside, there's a deep dimpled tool mark, left from the backup anvil while center punching the brass from the other side. The rear plate has the same deformed brass and tool mark on the inside of the plate. I need to mount the arbor in a collet. The arbor has some machine grooves in it from the factory that will prevent it from running true. I'll remove the ridges with some sandpaper so it'll run true in the lathe. The arbor and this shroud seem to be running true. The bend is someplace in the center of the lantern pinion. Two issues that need to be corrected here: a bent arbor and bent pivot. It does look like the arbor is bent someplace in the center of the lantern pinion. It might be bent where that thin ridge is in there. The arbor probably got bent from the backup anvil pressing against it while pounding on the center punch. And the pivot got bent from the center punch contacting it while it was being hit. I'll mark the high spots to help while straightening it. Straighten the arbor first. That's looking better. Now the pivot. Just a little more, and I'll call it good. Now the escape wheel. Put some blue on the high spots. Oh, there's a bent tooth that needs straightening. I'll use a pair of smooth-jawed pliers so as not to leave any tool marks. Looking good so far. Now to ream the pivot holes out and fit some bushings. Looks good. Press it home. Looks better than those center punches. Now to see how it fits up. Escape wheel looks excellent now. It won't be giving the owner any problems anymore. Now the fourth wheel gear needs to be trued up. Bushings look much better. No real economical way to totally remove these center punch marks. All assembled and running great now. A little more gap between the suspension spring and the anchor might be needed. I'll let it run for a few days and see how it times out. A nice Sessions Model 227P movement ready to keep time again.